Everyone is welcome here, it's time to make new friends. Aquavide Uskava, fill your Glencairn. Share a dram with the spirit of Edmonton.
Slancha! Good day, whiskey brothers, whiskey sisters, whiskey friends, and again, welcome to the International Whiskey Journey. We're honored to have you and our panel, these gentlemen right here, with us today. My name's Dolph. I'm the founder of the International Whiskey Journey. I'm your host tonight, and really happy you're here. For those that are new to us, I'll explain just a little bit what we're about. We're a group of whiskey geeks, first and foremost. We like to share a dram. But why International Whiskey Journey? Well, because they don't get enough kudos. International whiskey does not get enough kudos, and I think that's my job here right now. Well, really, my job is to drink whiskey with them every Saturday, but my secondary job is to promote whiskey or international whiskey. But regrettably, this is our final episode, so I'm very sorry. This is the last one, but these are fantastic people to have with us, and you can see those stills in the background behind Lasse. We're joined by Lasse Osnek, Chief Distiller, Head Distiller, and Marcus Christensen. Is Marcus there? Get a picture, have him jump in. He's the International Sales Director if he's around. We'll see him in a second anyway. They're from Copenhagen Distillery in Denmark. And this is our final stop of the summer. We're joined by panel members, as always, Joss and Richard. Welcome to you all. And let's just start our round table introductions, your names, other platform handles. And we're going to start Joss, Richard, and then Lasse, and then Marcus. There's Marcus there with the striped shirt. Welcome, Marcus. Good.
Thank you.
Joss, you're up.
Hey, Dolph, thank you. Again, very excited to be part of this, and I can't believe it's been already 10 episodes, but what a great place to end things off. Joss from Dram Society, actually here in Toronto today, and so yeah, looking forward to getting into the whiskey and gin.
Beautiful. And Richard.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Richard from the We Rock Whiskey Club. We Rock Whiskey out here. Again, stoked to be here. It's been a fantastic 10 weeks, and I'm looking forward to our visit to Denmark today. So thank you, Lasse.
And glad to have you here too, gentlemen. And let's start with Lasse, please.
Welcome to Copenhagen Distillery. I'm Lasse Osnek. I'm the master distiller, head distiller, whatever, the guy behind the kettles, the guy doing the juice that you're going to taste today and hear about. Welcome to Copenhagen.
Thank you so much. Marcus?
I'm Marcus. I'm doing sales. I'm just a pretty face. So Lasse is the one who makes the juice.
And we're very happy to have the pretty face and the master distiller there right with us today. I'm Dolph Shaw. I'm the president of the Alberta Scotch Society. I do the Whiskey Book Club. I do some other things online, but this is the most important at this moment right now. International whiskey. It's time to drink. And we didn't talk about what's in the glass, but I have the orange gin right now. So we'll pull that up. There's the orange gin, and I have very, very little left. That's done. And my last summer drink for the International Whiskey Journey is a gin and tonic. And then we also have this right here. So do you get a good spot of that? So Copenhagen Whiskey, single malt, and this is the raw series. And we're going to talk about the difference between raw, rare, and refined in a little bit. But that's what we've got right now. Really happy to have you. And I'll be drinking this along the way, gentlemen, and then we'll do some tasting notes on the raw, probably in about 15 minutes. Sound good?
Perfect.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Let's do that. So let's get some initial information on you, Lasse, and your link to the distillery, if I may, because I understand that you were on the ground floor with Heinrich. He was a lawyer, but you also gave up a lucrative profession to follow your dream of whiskey. So, how long did it take you? Tell us about your trip, first of all, and then how long did it take you from the time you started that trip to actually opening your distillery? So it's all you. I'm going to go really close up on you so we can see you. There we go.
Okay. Super cool. So it's a really good question. It's a very long journey. Both Henrik is the CEO of the company. Henrik and I we actually met each other in a whiskey club. first of all, I will say apologize for my English. I speak Danish, Scandinavian. I speak whiskey, English. I'll do my best.
And you sound fantastic, and you talk whiskey really well as well, sir. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. But Henrik and I, we met each other many years ago, and we are in a whiskey club where we meet every month. We blind taste a lot of whiskies, and after like 500 different whiskies that we blind tasted, and again, every second, third year, we will go to make a trip to Scotland, somewhere in Scotland, visit different distilleries. And in 2012, we went to the beautiful island of Islay. During the trip, visiting all the different distilleries at Islay, and start of June 2012, the sun was shining. I mean, Scotland, yeah. It was sunny. We went to Islay. We went to a small distillery after closing hours. We went to Bruichladdich. We didn't really know what to expect. We tasted the whiskey a lot of time, different, Octomore, etc. We went into the warehouse where an old guy, he came and he looked at us and said, "Laddies, come over here." We didn't really know who he was. And he started to, bring out one whiskey after the other. And we couldn't really guess what we were drinking, what we were tasting. I mean, we tasted a lot, but we couldn't really guess the age of the whiskey. We couldn't really guess. No, he was just laughing at us. It was Duncan, the former general manager. Unfortunately, he passed away earlier this year. But at the end of the tasting, Duncan, he brought a cask and gave us a sample of a whiskey. And this whiskey was just amazing. And many people ask me, how did it taste? I can just say this. It was just an experience. And during this tasting, we all asked, where and when can we buy this bloody, sorry, my language, where and when can we buy this whiskey? And he said, "Ladies, it's not for sale. It's my cask. It's my cask. I'm going on retirement, and I'm taking this cask with me. So this is a special treat. You can have it, And I have pictures of this fantastic whiskey. I have it on my iPhone always. So when I have bad days, I remember, how did the glass look? How was the dram, right? So I have the pictures as a memory for always. But after that, after that taste, after that dram, Henrik, he's a quite tall guy. I'm not. I'm only 172. He's more 2 meters, and he was like looking at me. I was looking at him, and he said, "Lasse, are we thinking the same?" I said, "Yes, we are. We're going to make whiskey in Denmark. We're going to make Duncan's whiskey. The impression, the feeling that we got, that is what we're going to make when we get back to Denmark." This was back in 2012. We came home to Coil, Denmark, and we did something we shouldn't do, of course. We bought a very small still, started to do some moonshine, started to learn.
You have to practice somewhere. You have to start somewhere.
Exactly. So we started with a very small still, and I did a lot of practice. Actually, in this basement, in my backyard, no one really knew what we were doing, but we were learning very fast. And after a few years, we opened the distillery. Actually, we raised a lot of money. We had this fantastic idea of making whiskey, making Danish whiskey. Completely different than what you have tried before. But we're making Danish whiskey here. We treasure and we really understand the different process steps in whiskey, but we try to do our own take on it. We have a mission of making fantastic whiskey in very short time. Because, and you'll see that in a moment, because of the micro environment we have in the distillery, we can do certain things that others can't do. So that's why we're here. 2012, we were in Scotland. 2013, 14, we were doing a lot of trials. 15, we opened the distillery. That means Henrik started. He opened the distillery. I worked a few years more in the pharmaceutical business. I've been in pharma for around 23 years. Worked as a scientist, as a project director, different in R&D. So I know my chemistry, I know my biology. You can ask all the questions you want. I'll do my best to answer. So there's a lot of science behind everything that we're doing in here. We don't have old recipes in the attic that we find, oh, my grandfather wrote this. Others do that. We don't. We started with a clean sheet and designed the distillery. There's a reason why the equipment is where it is. There's a reason why the casks are where they're placed. We'll go into that in a moment. Everything is designed from scratch to make what you are tasting now. I also have to admit, what you are tasting right now is a prototype. This is actually where it all started. It started with a small stainless steel still with a copper column inside, which is not here anymore. But still, once we taste and describe and dissecate the taste notes, etc., and go through the cask strategies, etc., I think you'll say, these things, they are actually they are thoughts of. They've done some deeper thinking, and this is a journey that we need to follow. I hope. If not, be honest and say, "Oh, crap, whiskey," and then we take it from there.
Okay, we'll be honest with you. And
fantastic.
That's good. So you're at Brooklady. You and Heinrich Brinks. You're both professionals. Yeah. You knew each other for a while, or you loved whiskey for a while
5 years.
at this point?
Yeah.
Enough to take a trip to Isla, right? So you loved it at this point. You go to Brooklady, and is that what you are aiming for? When you started your distillery, did you both think that's what we want to be at? Have the whiskey that you had from his special cask? Is that kind of where you were aiming, or did you have a different path? I'm wondering what type of whiskey you thought you wanted to make from the beginning.
Yeah. So I think the experience we got, and we were so surprised because this whiskey that we tasted, it was so complex. It was full of energy. It was sweet. It was dry. It has everything. It was something that we haven't tried before. And we just looked at each other and said, look, we have to do this in Denmark. We have to do it in Denmark in a Danish style.
Okay.
So we sat down and thought, how can we make the most extreme? How can we make a most extreme experience, for all the whiskey lovers out there? I don't want them to, have a dram and say, this tastes like a Highland Park 18. No, then I failed. So the mission was to make the most extreme experience, different experience, something completely new. We had to bring something new to the table. If we're just copycatting any other distillery, then there's no reason for us to be here.
All right. No, that's a good point. If you're just trying to copy someone else, why not just drink someone else's whiskey? All right, good.
Exactly.
Good point. Hopefully Marcus didn't go away, because I want to ask about Marcus, or just his role. How long has he been there? Why did he come on to Copenhagen? And did he know both of you for a long time? Was this a friendship that just grew into, you just picked friends from all over the place to start the distillery?
No, it's not. It's I know Henrik since they started the distillery. I seen the whole trip. I was actually working for other distillery before, and Henrik was trying to get me to come over and see what we can do during the years. And I think it was like in December 2018, he called me and said, come on over, because now we're actually ready.
Okay.
And I tried the first whiskey they did, and I couldn't say no to it. Definitely not. No, it's something totally different I've never tried before. So I was blown away.
And
so that's the part. So now I've been here for a little bit more than a year during a pandemic. Beautiful with exports. But it's amazing distillery. And we are out on a great journey, definitely.
Nice. Well, and it feels like you're almost on the ground floor too, right? You're building something, and that's a nice feeling. Now, Lasse has that feeling for sure. I mean, he's built it with his own hands. And we're going to talk about the stills and maybe your role in the stills and the whiskey as well. But I just want to talk about the distillery itself. So I'm just going to show some pictures. And this is a picture of Europe and where you are in relation to Norway, Poland, Germany, Netherlands. And let's go a little bit closer, and you can see we're in Denmark. And we've been around a little bit with our international journey. So you're, I think, our most northerly distillery. And that's where we are. So thank you to Google Earth for this. We got a good picture. And I think where that little, where the red pin is exactly where you are. Because you go in the front doors and your stills are right there, I believe. So there's, I think so. There's the distillery.
Yes.
And the doors,
Exactly.
I think we see in the background when we see you.
Yes.
Let's get that up. Before I could see it, it's getting darker there, obviously, because it's 7:15 at night, but it's that. So let's a small question about the distillery. So give us a little bit about information about the building itself, because it's not often here in Canada that we a building that was constructed in 1749 is still used, much less used in some type of industry. So that was really neat. And I think it was a pottery business first, and then later a brewery or some type of combination. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Why did you pick this location? And I'm wondering if you picked a place that has a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people driving by that say, let's go into the distillery.
Yeah. So we actually started in that old building from 1735. We're not there anymore. We were there from 15 to 17. 2017, and then we moved to the building that you just showed on the screen. So
right there.
This old romantic, exactly, this is where we are today. This is not a building from 1735.
So.
It's from the 1960s. Sorry, I have to be honest. So we started not far from here, a few kilometers from here, very close to the airport, just next to the harbor in the Kastrup. It's, you can't. If you step 5 steps, then you go into the water. It's a really old romantic stone building, and it's so romantic that you're not allowed to do anything in there. It's what do you call that? It's protected. So you're not allowed to do anything. So we had to build a box inside of this fantastic building. Where we could work, have heat and the stills and everything, and it was just too small. It was like 150 square meters or 200 square meters. It was just too small to have a distillery in there. It was too difficult to work. So after half a year, we just grew out of that, and we had to find something else. We are very close to that building, this very romantic building where everything started. Our logo that you have is actually also,
there we go.
So the logo that we're using, it's nothing to do with Microsoft. No, it's actually the black box. It's the box where we were standing and working inside. So when you look at it, it's black on one side, it's white. The white is where we had glass walls and we would have light inside so we could see what we're doing. And this is where we started. So we had a small box inside of the building where we could work. And this is where everything started. So after 2 years, we had to find something else because, we just grew out of it very, very fast. There was a lot of interest in the products. And then one day we were driving near the coast and where you see the building now. And we just, went into the owner of this area and said, do we have any, buildings, warehouse, something that we can rent for a distillery? And he was like, no. And are you sure? No, we don't have, we have nothing. Okay, sorry. And then walking out of the door, he said, guys, what did you say? Was it a brewery? No. A distillery. We're going to make Copenhagen's first whiskey distillery. I said, in a few months, I actually do have a space for you if you want. And then he shows us this room. Nice. It's 1,000 square meters, slightly bigger than what we had before. Not huge, but a good place to start. So a few months later, we signed the contract and we got these fantastic. This fantastic location in Copenhagen. It's really, really, really difficult to find a place where you can build a distillery. It's just not possible. We are 2 kilometers from the center of Copenhagen. You don't get closer to the center. So we were very lucky to get this location.
And looking at that, you have a lot of room to do stuff. You could expand possibly, but you could have a lot of events around your distillery.
Yes, definitely. And we have concerts, festivals, whatever. The distillery is like divided in two parts. One is what you're seeing right here, 500 square meters. And if we actually turn the camera around, you would actually see that we have a big glass wall, and behind the glass wall, we have a venue. Perhaps the camera guy could, Robin, can you just show? And actually, when the lights are turned off right now, it's actually because we are having a live session in there. They're doing a podcast on rock music history. So we have a venue which is also 500 square meters. We're going to have around 600-700 guests inside of the building.
I've got a picture of that. This is part of it.
Exactly.
That one.
Exactly. Yes.
There's the other side. And I like the front. I'd be here at the bar. I think that would be my spot right there. But that's okay.
Exactly. When I'm not behind the keels, I'm also there. And I can say the distillery. You can say owners. It's Henrik. You heard about him, the guy with the big beard, 2 meter tall. And then there's 3 other guys. We also have to mention those guys because without those guys, we wouldn't be here. It's they're called Anders, Ørn, and Esben. Anders, Ørn, and Esben. They have a branding company. They build brands. They do I won't mention company names, but they do great stuff. All the design of the bottles, the labels, everything, the homepage, they're doing that great stuff.
Nice.
They're doing that great stuff. So I'm doing what's inside of the bottle. They're working really hard on the brand and how it should look on the outside. So they're also part of the company. They're also owners of the company.
And I really do like it. It's very, very basic, to the point. It's got all the information you need right on it. And I love logos that you can recognize really quickly, and I can with that. So I think it's fantastic.
Very Scandinavian. It's very Danish.
Nice.
It's very fantastic.
Thank you very much. And I'm gonna Justin, Rich, I'm going to get a question from you in 1 second, but I just want to ask one question to Marcus. Marcus, tell us your relationship internationally with us, with Craftwork Spirits, with Yark and Greg, because they had a comment on there, because it seems like they wanted to say hi to you. Hi, Marcus. Yeah. And they're looking forward to your visit in December. So I want to see you then too. It'd be fantastic. But tell us about your relationship internationally, how many countries you go to. But let's start with Yark and Greg, please, sir. As I drink the gin.
With Yark and Greg, I worked with before as well, and they took us on to Canada. So, and I have been to visit you guys as well a couple of times before, and now we're getting Yark and Greg over here in December. So that is what they're looking forward to.
Oh, they're coming there. They're going there. Oh, that's fantastic. Good for them. I want to travel so much. I'm so jealous. It's incredible.
Yeah, likewise, definitely. But at the moment, we're selling in 15 countries.
Okay.
So it's not, we're starting to get there. We're just spreading the Copenhagen Distillery word around.
And it's
we just actually entered UK. So I was actually out traveling as well a couple of days ago.
Oh, everyone's traveling, but me. That's okay. In here, we're not traveling for a little while, I don't think, especially from Alberta. When it comes to Canada, we're the worst province.
Yeah, we heard.
It's going badly. It's going really badly. But, and sorry, I said questions from you guys, but one last question. The old distillery, did you keep that as like a storefront to sell stuff out of? Or did you completely let go of that space?
Unfortunately, we had to let go of the space.
Okay. Yeah. Joss, do you have a question?
But we have the old still. The old still. It's in the other room, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out which one I want to pick here, but I think I'm going to stick to the something that Lasse said earlier, where he was talking about how the distillery itself was inspired from a trip to Scotland, but you also then sort of spoke about how you didn't want to be the next Highland Park. And sort of wanted to invent or at least work a unique process into how you make whiskey. So I guess what I'm wondering is do you still, because the whole thing that kicked this thing off for you guys was that trip to Scotland, do you still draw, are you able to, or do you still draw influence from Scotland? Or do you try to kind of completely separate yourself because you want to kind of only be inspired by, I guess, what distilleries might be doing around here, or the sort of process that you guys have kind of worked into how you do things? I guess, are you allowed to draw in influences without ruining the uniqueness of how you make your whiskey?
Good question.
Really good question. So there's no link to Scottish whiskey of what we're doing at all. You can say the process of whiskey is the same, but that's global, right? You still need to mill your malt, you still need to mash, you still need to ferment, you still need to distill, and you need to mature in casks. That's it. And that's the boundaries. And then you need to find out how can you make your own whiskey within these boundaries. And when we go through the process, I think you will be saying, okay, that's not Scottish whiskey at all. So we love whiskey from Scotland. We love whiskey from all over because, I mean, no one starts a distillery. No one starts a distillery thinking, I don't have passion with me. I'm just going to make some juice that I can sell cheap and earn some money. We do it because we have passion, right? I mean, how many, you have had so many guests on this show. I've watched this so many times. So every time you have a distiller or a company or a sales rep, whatever in here for the shows every Saturday, they all talk about the passion and how they try to make something different, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Question.
Follow-up question, Joss?
Well, I think you're going to probably get into this, but obviously I had jumped on the website before and realized that we are drinking batch 1 here. And I thought, man, you know, whenever you see batch 1 on anything these days, you kind of think, do I even want to open this? This is probably worth a lot of money one day. Kidding, you know, we actually cracked into it last night. We had it with our club and kind of got a lot of feedback on it, which was great. Again, very different, very exciting. I saw that you came out with a batch 2 rare. And because you've got this raw, rare, and refined theme, I'm assuming that you're probably working on batch 3, which I guess would be refined if I'm following that pattern. I know that we were going to get into that and kind of talk about that. I don't know if that's a good segue to get into that, but yeah, that's just, it looks like you've got a fun little kind of theme going here.
So we are making raw, rare, refined. We have 3 different categories, and I'll get more into detail. But raw is what we're tasting right now. This is batch 1. Batch 2 will be up in January next year, February next year. Rare, we have had 2 different batches of that. Refined, we'll do the first refined in. Actually, I just tapped the. I just emptied the casks, so it will be launched in October. It's 3 different categories, and we work with categories. We don't make a 12-year-old whatever or 18-year-old whatever. We work in categories. Raw is the most simple thing you can do. It's the white dog, the raw distillate from the still into raw cask, virgin oak casks. That's it, nothing else. So that's the boundaries. I can't add anything into this, right? Then we have the refined. Refined is the opposite. Refined is bespoke casks that we make. It's our own casks. And when you see the color of the whiskey, when you do the nosing and you taste it, it's just an explosion of flavors. It's sweet, it's dry, it's so powerful, it's so fantastic. It's completely different than this. And then we have the rare. The rare is, you know, it's 20 bottles, it's 50 bottles, 100 bottles of where we work with either, you know, ancient grain types that no one wants to touch. We have the spelt, we have Emma, we have Einkorn. You know, no one has touched these and won't really work with them anymore. Or we have casks that you can't buy. We have, you know, the rare we just launched a few months ago. It's so loud. Sorry. It was in oak gin casks. When do you find a whiskey that has been matured in cask that has been used for gin, right? You don't. Or Negroni or liquor or whatever. Aquavits. We have so many different casks. So that's a playground where we test a lot of stuff, casks or grain types that no one will work with, but we do it because it tastes fantastic. and they have a history or story to tell, and that's why we do it.
Greg had a question about the cask specifically. So do the casks come from the Trust Hungary cooperage? Because they visited them in 2002 when they're making casks primarily for wine at that point. So same place?
No, it is not from Hungary, actually. Hungarian Oak, and I'll get back to that also. But Hungarian Oak is a type of oak, right? You have like in you have the Quercus alba, the white oak.
Yep.
We have Robust, we have the red oak, we have European oak, and then you have the Frenetto, which is Hungarian oak. Sometimes they also call it Italian oak, especially if they make Italian wine, they would call it Italian oak. It's called Hungarian oak, and you normally use it for wine. You don't use it for whiskey. It's not normal, and there are plenty of reasons why you don't use it for whiskey. You need to control the casks. The casks are very special. The trees are very special. The trees that we are using are 150-year-old trees. They grow 1,000 meters above sea level. It's crazy, right? They're air dry for 1.5 years before the cooper starts to work with it. It's so flavorful. It's the most dense tree that you can find, the most dense oak tree that you can find. So it has special properties, and you need to control the wood. You need to control the casks and know how to control it, or else you will just ruin the whiskey.
Okay.
But we'll get back to that also. Yeah, cool.
That's a good one. Thank you very much for the lead into that, Joss. Richard, you got a question, kind sir?
Yeah, a few questions. One that's just popping into the back of my head, or the front of my head right now, actually. Lasse, you've got this beautiful collection of stills behind you, and I'm wondering if your single malt is always done in a pot still, or if you use a column still or a variety. If you do change the type of still, is there, everything you do seems to be done with such great purpose and science. As well as some risk taking and creativity just to see what's going to happen. But do you ever vary your the use of the stills to create your single malts?
Another good question.
Really good question. So the first batch of each category, raw, rare, refined, was made on this small pot still. And we're not using that anymore. It's not efficient enough, and that's why also I'm sure you will pop the question: why is it a mixture of double and 3 times distilled? Why triple distilled? I'll get back to that. We did on the pot still. We don't distill more than once on a combination still, as the one I have in the back, and we'll get back to that why, because it's a completely different chemistry. But when you understand the chemistry, and if you understand, the mechanisms behind, then you can actually start to do mimic stuff that you actually do on a pot still, on a combination still. Mm-hmm. And you can refine and make it even more smooth and more beautiful and fantastic. And we upgraded by doing this, right? In the start, we did like 1,000 liters a year, right? Nothing. Now we do 50,000, and which is so. But there's a lot of thought behind the still, and the reason why we had the Müller still, for example, because there's a lot of combination stills, and you see the micro distilleries using that. That's a reason why. But let's get back to that in a second.
Okay.
Well, I have nothing to talk about when we stand in front of it. So is that okay?
Absolutely. Richard, follow up.
No, actually, that's I'd like to know. You're probably going to get into it, Lasse, but I want to know about the stills that you have behind you.
Yeah.
He's going to take us on a virtual tour, and he's going to talk about each one. And they're beautiful, right? And they're they design them themselves, so we need to get into that conversation. But let's stick with the whiskey just for a little sec. And I say this because it's really hard finding information for English articles to draw on for you guys. But just about every article mentions that you try to surprise and delight. And that those two words come up over and over and over again. So is that your motto? For one, is that pasted on a wall somewhere, surprise and delight every time? Tell us about it.
No. When you see the building, it's very Danish, very modern. There's nothing on the walls. That's how it is in Denmark. But yes, surprise, and it should surprise you. If it doesn't surprise you, if it doesn't delight you, you shouldn't drink it. It's very simple. Everything that we do, we really try to cut to the bone and make it as simple as possible. It can be the gins, the aquavits, the whiskey. We don't add anything, any extra, just for the storytelling. We try to keep it as simple as we can, okay, and as delightful and surprising as, hopefully it is. Yeah,
and
cool.
Just for everyone's information, the bottles, and this bottle is 38 of 300. It's 61.1%, 500 mils. And again, very nice design. I like it. Well, I like these bottles for one, gentlemen. I don't know if you like the square heavy bottles as well, but I really like these. And well, you can see the whiskey's almost gone as well. So yeah, this is great. Let's do the taste, gentlemen. Let's see what we got. And we started with Josh before, so Richard, let's go with you. Tell us what you get on the nose.
I get something very young, perfumey, very fruity, almost like sort of cherry pie.
Okay,
that's the nose for me. On the palate, are we getting to the palate now, or you want me to hold back?
You go ahead.
All right,
just jump in.
So at 61.1%, I have to say that's in my wheelhouse. That's, or at least closing in on my wheelhouse, right? I know. Cheers. That's anytime you get into the 60s, I'm starting to find my happy place. And with that comes that that beautiful drying mouthfeel of the high ABV. Love it. I get that dry, oaky spice. I assume that these are fairly heavily charred casks. No?
Medium char.
Medium
char.
Medium toast.
Because I'm getting sort of an earthy backbone. There's that pepper that you describe on the box as well. That's almost like a grr to it, which is really enjoyable. So yeah, the vanillas, the spice, it's and I tried this straight out of the bottle when I first cracked it, 5-7 days ago. I had a bit, and it's certainly opened up nicely where it tastes less young than it did when I first had it. So the oxygen certainly helps it out. So those are my notes.
The oxygen, it does over time. Mine's been open for an hour now, and it changes over time. And the heat of the hand, this isn't a great one for the hand. I had my other one in my regular Glencairn, and it heated it up, and it changes it with the heat dramatically.
Cool.
So there was a very big difference with the heat, which I noticed sometimes, but this one I did. Joss, nose, palate, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I was going to say it drinks. I just actually looked at the ABV for the first time. I didn't realize it was over 60%. I was going to say I would definitely drinks like a low 50, which is. I mean, I like the high ABV stuff too, but I also don't like the stuff that is high ABV for the sake of just being high ABV and it's just hot and nothing else. This definitely doesn't suffer from that at all. And it's funny that when we cracked the bottle last night, I could have sworn there were botanicals in this thing. I thought this is like some kind of a ginny almost. It blew me away. Obviously, it's not, but I just got all these. Like a lot of I guess maybe some of the kind of floral aspects that Richard touched upon. But I think now that it's had a chance to breathe and warm up a bit, I get a lot of the malt. I definitely like burnt brown sugar on the nose, some caramel. That malt goes right through into the palate. And then again, you got those nice peppery and earthy notes in the finish. That's about all I have to say. It's very different, and I like it for that reason.
For me, it's very vegetal. So it's almost umami in a certain respect. There's not a sweet umami, but it's almost a garlicky, almost a mushroomy, just a little bit on the front. And that came out more with the heat, I think. How about mouthfeel, gentlemen? I love it, so I don't want to keep saying the same thing. What do you guys think about the feel?
It starts in initially, but only very briefly, very creamy before that dryness comes in, which again I love because of the ABV.
Good stuff. And a comment on the side. We thought it might have been ex-gin cast for a second. Some very nice complexity, I think, may be from the oak. So
that was
Lux is saying no gin.
For sure.
No gin. It's no gin whatsoever.
No. It's never seen any gin cask, and it's never been near a still where we have used gin. So we have separate stills, one for gin, one for whiskey. So it's been in the same production area where we do gin and whiskey, but that's it. So no, the secret here, you can say, or not the secret, but we'll get back to it again, the casks and the fermentation. Cask and fermentation. The dryness is from the cask. It's all the tannins that you can get from the Hungarian oak, especially when we work with the 100-liter cask. We'll get back to it. And this special mouth feeling that you get, the dryness is really powerful, right? And that you need to control. It's different. Huh?
Why don't we talk about that now? Let's talk about the cask. It's 100-liter virgin oak cask, and it's a medium char we have. And that's for the raw category. And you'll tell us if that continued with the rare and refined after, or as we're talking about it. But you also mentioned the double and triple distilled. So if we can talk about that a bit, but I've got a couple questions, a lot of questions. And let's see we'll get, you don't want anything other than your spirit to come through. So no previous bourbon or sherry casks. And I'm wondering if maybe you're wondering as well, if this may over time create an overly wooded flavor once you get to the 5, 10, 15 year range. So that's a second question. I'm also wondering if more distillers should do the same thing, because I like the idea of having just the wood. Bourbon does the same thing. I like this component about bourbon. It's just the wood and it's not finished. I love finishing. I love matured whiskeys in different casks as well. But I think it would be really neat if every bottle that we had that said sherry finished or PX finished or port finished, that you had a small bottle hanging from the top of it of what it tasted like in wood previously. I think this would be a good marketing thing. Marcus, I think it'd be a great marketing thing. Everything you sell, if it's all finished in something, have the original, what it tasted like before. And that would show people that you're not just trying to cover something up, that it was quality before and changed just slightly after, and not trying to cover something up. I think that's a great idea. So if you want to do that, Marcus, I'll be happy.
In the raw category, you cannot hide.
Go ahead, buddy. I'm going to make you look.
In the raw category that we're taking right now, you cannot hide behind the cask. It's not charred or medium charred or heavy charred. It's toasted. It's like wine casks. There's no charcoal inside of the cask. I'll show you in a minute. There's no charcoal inside of the cask. I don't have anything to remove impurities from the distillate, from the white dog. Doesn't exist. So it requires a lot from me to make a fantastic white dog or a distillate which is really clean and smooth, in order to put them into casks that haven't been charred before. There's a reason why we char casks. Two reasons. It gives color, it gives flavor. The heat gives a lot of flavor, the vanilla, the sugars, everything, right? But the charcoal inside also removes a lot of impurities. That's a reason why we have to mature whiskey for a long time, for the flavor, and in order to remove some unwanted impurities. That's how it is. And that started some thoughts. But what if we remove these impurities from the start? What if we, in our process, do it completely different? So before we talk more about the cask, and let's just, sorry, Dolph.
No, it's good. Break it all out.
We start with the grain, right? Everyone uses malt, barley for single malt. This is Danish malt, it's local malt. Everyone talks about local malt. We have like 1 or 2 places where we can buy local Danish malt. All of the distilleries more or less use, malt from the same manufacturer, and that's how it is. But it really doesn't matter, because it's premium quality. The question is not if I have a unique malt that I can start with, or barley. The question is, how do I treat the malt? How do I treat the malted barley? What is my process? What do I add? How do I work with this? So let's try and dig a little bit deeper into what happens, what do we do? And then you can say, I mean, you have had a lot of different guests, you have visited distilleries, you have heard the story so many times, and then you can say, oh, they actually do it in the same way here or there. Or perhaps you will say, oh, actually you are doing something different. I hope the last thing.
Lasse,
We all start with the same. Yes.
You had Emmer malt, EMMER as well. And
yes,
was
Emmer
specific to only one type of whiskey, or do you use that a lot, often?
No. Emmer is actually, so when you make single malt, you need to use barley. Grain whiskey is made on wheat, and this is the mother wheat. I mean, in the Viking time, 1,000 years back, this was the original grain type. We don't use it anymore because when you look at the size of the husk compared to the grain itself, I mean, it's just crazy, right? There's a reason why the Vikings would die when they were 25 years old. It was damn difficult to work with the grain. It's fantastic for beer. It's amazing for whiskey. The machinery in the back, and I'll just show. Let's move around here. It's a really good question with the Emmer, because Emmer is so difficult to work with that when we normally buy equipment for mashing, the mash tuns, the fermentation tanks, it's all built for barley. And I don't know if is it too dark. Can you see anything? Yeah.
Oh, we see you perfectly. And I just got to say, you're the first person to show us around visually or virtually on air. So this is fantastic. I love this. Keep this going,
Thank
buddy.
You. Cool. So you can't see the mill. The mill is just on the backside. We are not using a traditional mill here. I mean, normally you will either have what do you call that? Rolling. What do you call it? Roller blade? Oh, hammer mills.
Yep.
You have what do you call? Yeah. We use a plate mill. Plate mill is a completely different design. So if you all drink coffee at home and you have an espresso machine, you also have a coffee grinder. And the coffee grinder, if you have a high-end coffee grinder, you will have, it's actually a small plate mill. The grinder has 2 plates with teeth, and these teeth you can determine, or you can actually adjust the distance between the teeth, right? Between the plates. So once the grain or the barley pops into the mill, it will actually only touch the plates once. So it will break the barley into 2, and it will go into the mash tun. That's
almost like a windmill then, right?
Yeah, we don't destroy, we don't mill it into flour or whatever. We just crack open the grain. That's it. It goes directly into the mash tun. We have a small mash tun. It's 2,500 liters. We have 4 fermentation tanks of 2,500 liters, so we can make 10,000 liter of mash or wort at the end of the day. A batch size is 500 kilograms of barley or malt. It's 3 times as much water, 70 degrees. It meets each other, and then we start to extract all the starch. Because what is it that we are making? We try to extract starch. We want to, with the natural enzymes in here, we want to make sugar, right? We want to degrade or convert the starch into different sugars. So we don't just want to have one type of sugar. We want to have a variety of different sugars, so we can both make alcohol, but we can also make other alcohols that we later on can use to make different flavors. So after mashing, which takes quite a long time, we cool everything down, the mash down. We don't boil it. We don't kill everything. It's very important that we keep the lactic bacteria from the local grain alive. So just a certain amount must stay alive because we use the lactic bacteria for second fermentation. So after mashing, we don't lauter, we don't sieve, we don't remove anything. We don't remove all the solids. We keep everything. We pump it directly into the fermentation tanks where we stir all the time. And in the fermentation tanks, together with the yeast, we start the process of making alcohol, of course, and different taste notes, different building blocks that we need in order to make a fantastic white dog or distillate.
Okay. No louder ton for you, and it all goes in there. How hard is that to clean, or is it all mechanized? All mechanized?
Look at, I mean, no, I mean, it's we clean everything ourselves, you know, and we don't use, I mean, we only use water and steam. That's it. Yeah. I climb up in the manhole in the top and the bottom. I clean them manually. That's how we do it every single day.
Oh, wow.
That's how it is. We do everything manually. We don't have fancy machines. We are in control. We use our hands. It's passion. That's how it is. We don't make 1 million liters of whiskey or white dog. We make 50,000 liters, right? This year we only make 20,000 because of Corona or COVID. So that's how it is. We make very small amounts. What we want to do is to make a fantastic wash here. We want to make, you know, a distiller's beer or whatever you want to call it, with high ABV, but full of taste notes. So the ABV in here is around 11%.
11,
slightly higher than what you normally see, right? 11%. We ferment the first 3-4 days. You will see, you can hear the yeast. We control the temperature. We use, whiskey yeast or distiller's yeast. I will not tell you exactly which one. We use a specific temperature in here for 7 to 10 days. 7 to 10. I mean, after 3 days, I would have all the alcohol that I want, right? Then I could distill it, and then I could create a nice white dog or distillate. But that's not what I want. I want to create taste. So we ferment or continue to ferment here for 7 to 10 days. So the lactic bacteria starts to awake and starts to work and make all the building blocks we need. They do a lot of small acids, fatty acids that we can use, because acid and alcohol later on in the still, in the cask, create esters and taste. So we need to create all that in the fermentation tanks, or else we only have the casks to work with. We don't want that. We don't want that. So after 10 days, we pump everything. Again, we don't filter anything. We don't remove any solids. We pump everything directly into the still, which is 1,000-liter Müller or combination still. It's a combination of pot still and a small column. It's a very special column. And that's why we use it. We did actually visit, and I think that was one of your initial questions. Where did you get this from? How did you design it, and why? What's the story behind the still?
Yes.
And we went actually to many manufacturers. We went to 4 manufacturers who made stills for generations. We made a user requirement specification. It sounds so fantastic, right? This is what we call it in the pharmaceutical industry. So we put up all the specs and say, okay, can you fulfill all of these? And based on a scoring system, we would then choose one. We actually also did a due diligence. We visited all the different manufacturers just to see, do we understand how they work? Do we agree on how they work, how they do things, etc., etc., etc. And we ended up with one manufacturer. And there's a reason for that. Especially the part of the column is different from most of the other manufacturers who make these kind of combination stills. So the still that we have here, I think around 95% of stills in Copenhagen, not Copenhagen, but in Denmark, is from the same manufacturer. Everyone is very satisfied. I'm not going to mention any names, Müller. This is a 1,000-liter copper still. The top part, the whiskey helmet, the swan neck, that's our design. The amount of plates that we want, the middle section, I'll get back to that in a second. It's a special design, and the top, the deflagmator is a special design, because with this, we are so much in control of what we want to make. So if you want to have a fantastic rough, distillate, we can do that. If you want to have something which is really smooth, and we can do that. We can do whatever we want. We are really in control with a still like this. Compared to a pot still, it's different. Sorry?
What taste were you going for when you were designing this still? Because if I look at it, and if you could back up just a little bit, it's the onion design, but it's very thin up top. And I think the line arm is going down at 45 degrees, but I can't tell if it's just our angle or if it's actually going down like that. What were you?
So,
what taste were you looking for in that design?
Yeah. So again, the Danish taste, right? What you have to understand with a still like this, right? There's a reason why you have the whiskey helmet, and normally why you have this neck in the shape that you have. Because when you work with a pot still, it's crucial. I mean, the shape and the angle determines what kind, and the energy that you put into the system determines what kind of a wash and spirit that you will get at the end of the day. You know, how the distillate will taste like. But on a system like this, it's not like that. It's completely different mechanisms, different physics behind it. So there's a reason why you want to have copper when you have your still.
Yeah.
Right. It looks good. It's good to heat transfer. It's really good to bind sulfur from all the protein from the grain, and that's good. But to separate alcohol from water is not that great, right? That's a reason why you have to double or triple distill, because you want to have enough ABV in your distillate before you put it into the cask, which is perfectly fine, because all the distilleries who use pot stills, they make fantastic products. We just do it different. We work with a combination still because we just do one run. It goes from 11% in here and through the system and out here at the end where the distillate comes out. It starts at 92%.
Okay.
92%. And when it drops to 70, this is when I do my second cut. I say then it's the tail. So what I collect is between 92 and 70. 92 and 70. It's very different than what you normally see at a pot still.
Right, where
so
you stop at 40, roughly. Yeah.
The first time, and then you run it again, and then you get a higher ABV. So it's a completely different way of working, and there's also a completely different amount of compounds that you get through the system. I'll just go through very, very fast. So the first part we know, pot still, right? Put in the energy into the system, starts to boil, and again, just for everyone, you know, the boiling point for ethanol, alcohol, 78 degrees. Nothing happens at 78 degrees in a still when it's full of wash, right? Nothing happens. The temperature must go much above, more like 92, 95 degrees before anything happens, because it's a mixture of alcohol and water and many other compounds. If it was pure alcohol in here, then it would, you know, start to boil, and you can distill at 78. But when you have a wash, then it's completely different chemistry. You need to put much more energy into the system. And that's also why we never talk about temperature. We talk about energy going into the system. A lot of energy starts to boil, and then you see a lot of reflux, right? So it starts here, the vapor will go into like 35, 40% until it hits the first plate. When it hits the first plate, the vapor, it will condense. And then we go actually from a liquid, which is 11% to 40%. And it still gets a lot of energy, starts to go into vapor again, and it hits the second plate. Mm-hmm. Now it's 56%. Condenses, gets more energy, and suddenly it goes into vapor again. But in the middle section here, we don't have more plates. We don't have 18 plates. We're not making, you know, neutral grain spirit. We're making distillate for whiskey. So in the middle section here, we have a 10-meter long copper coil.
Okay.
Right? So the vapor goes through this copper coil, and every time it touches the sides, the copper, it will condense and it will go, you know, through the copper or down. As it slides down, it will take up energy again. So all the light notes will continue to go into vapor all the time, while the water is stripped off. When you look at it, when it runs, I mean, today's Saturday, it's closed, sorry. But if you were here 2 days ago, you would see it would look like a waterfall. You would see how the water is stripped off and all the nice, fantastic light components that we created in the fermentation tanks. They just raise and go up to the top section. In the top section, it's a deflagmator. It's a German deflagmator. It means copper tubes in a water bath. It's copper tubes covered in a water bath. So by controlling the temperature up here, we control, again, what can pass through this system. So again, when you have a pot still, you have this, and you have that, and you have the neck. That's it. That's why you control it, and that's why they always tell you the story about if anything happens to it, then we're screwed. We need to find something and replace it, which is exactly the same. On a system like this, completely different chemistry. We control, again, what we want to get through the deflagmator, goes to the condenser, and then we collect it. Right? Completely different way of working. So
tell us the timeline, Lasse. Tell us the timeline it's going through at. How many days are we doing it? So it's not a 3-day process in the like we were talking about before. No,
definitely not. So mashing 1 day, fermentation 7 to 10 days, distillation 1 day, cask maturation. That we'll get back to now. If you can get my cameraman to follow me, just to show you.
And as we're going over to the wood, did you ever do Macedonian oak? I read that somewhere that it was from Macedonia. And
no, actually, these trees that these Hungarian oak trees, they are from Bulgaria.
Okay.
I will not tell you exactly from where. It's a very special Cooper who makes these specially for us.
Nice.
I don't know any other whiskey distillery who has these kind of casks of Hungarian oak, 150-year-old trees that are cut down, rest for 1.5 years before they start to make them. He only makes the casks when I place an order. So it's not something that he takes from the shelf. And then these are newly made, fresh casks that he sends to me every second month. That's how it works.
Lasse, they don't look like they're 100-liter casks, those ones.
No, this one is 100-liter. So we have, we use 2 different types. So this is 100-liter. The other one is more like a hogshead. It's 225.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, good. So the last section where we differ is not just the wood type, but keeping all the casks in here. Keeping all the casks in here means that the casks are heated up all the time. You know, when we run production, the temperature is around 30 degrees in here, Celsius. And during night hours, in the morning, we're back to around 20 degrees. Then we start up again, raises to 30 degrees and drops to 20. So the temperature fluctuates all the time. The same does the whiskey inside. It expands and contracts like this every single day, all year.
All that flavor.
Exactly. So what makes the flavor in the whiskey? Of course, you have what you have in your white dog, in your distillate, but the casks, you need oxygen, you need the cask, you need to extract all these fantastic flavors, right? And that you do much faster when you have this microenvironment that you have in here. That's the reason why you see all the casks in here. And that's why the whiskey that you're tasting is, 3 years old. This was made on, again, a small pot still. It took me 1 week to distill, not just 1 day. It takes around 6 hours to distill 1,000 liters on a still like the one that you saw. So I can do twice a day, actually meaning that I can make a cask or 2 casks a day if I want to. Not more than that. We're not here to make 1 million liters. We're here to make what we believe is a little bit a taste of Denmark, Danish whiskey made in Copenhagen, made with passion.
Nice.
So we start slow.
Yeah.
in order to rapid or do a fast maturation. We removed all the impurities. We distilled, we collect something. The heart is between 92 and 70, right? All the off notes never in the distillate.
Okay.
And that's why we don't need to keep them for a long time in the cask. Cool.
That is.
Oh, you had a really good question before. I'm sorry. I'm just jumping again. We have one cask, which is a bourbon cask, this one.
Oh,
We talked about charring and not charring and sorry. So when you char a cask, a bourbon cask, it gives fantastic flavor to the bourbon. Yes, it does. And if I do like this, and you also see how black my fingers get, right?
Yep.
If I take what I call a, sorry.
Clean hand and stays clean. Yeah.
So when we char, they are black inside. It's very light char. So when you do that, then you still keep a lot of the spiciness in the wood. All these white pepper, black pepper, all these fantastic flavors.
Okay.
Still have the vanilla, still have the color. Just a different way of working. I talked a lot. You didn't have the chance to ask any questions. Sorry.
Oh no, we asked some questions along the way. But Joss and Richard, do you have any other questions about our nerdiness that we usually ask? Any specifics you want from Lasse?
I've got one, unless Rich wants to jump in first.
You're good.
I was going to go actually back to and thank you for getting really in depth with the casks there. I guess what I'm trying to reconcile is you had mentioned something earlier about how maybe it was dense Hungarian oak is, which then kind of got me thinking, does that mean that your angel share is less because it's harder for oxygen to permeate through the wood? Which then got me thinking, does that mean that the whiskey would age more slowly because that exchange rate is, or the rate of oxygen moving in and out of that cask? They talk about something like Mizunara wood, which is just a terrible leaky thing to work with, and you can't age in it for very long without losing a whole ton of stuff. How does Hungarian oak kind of fit into that whole spectrum?
Fantastic question, and you just hit the nail on the. If I wouldn't keep the casks in this room, in this microenvironment where the temperature changes all the time, then I would have the problem that you just described. If I would place my cask in a warehouse outside where it's just 12 degrees all year round, then I would be in deep trouble. Nothing would happen, right? But because I have this microenvironment in here, that saves me. One of the reasons. Secondly, Hungarian oak, when you work with Hungarian oak, you have a lot of tannins. So the lignin that you have in the cask breaks rather fast. It breaks down rather fast, and you will actually see that it releases a lot in the start. So if you don't treat the casks right from the start, it will take over. It will be too dry, and you can feel the mouth feeling that you have. It's not just because of the high ABV. It's due to this 100-liter cask, huge surface compared to the liquid inside. That's why you have it. If you would have a more diluted whiskey, 49%, you would still have the dryness because the compound, the tannins are there.
Yep.
So again, if you go into larger casks, the 225, then you have less tannins. The more you burn them, the more less dryness, and it's more secure, more safe way to work with casks. What a fantastic question.
Thank you. Richard, you got one?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. One sort of a sciencey question. There's been a lot of science here, and I totally appreciate that. You were talking about when it's coming off the still being somewhere between 70 and 92%. So at what alcohol percentage do you put it into the barrel, and for what effect, and how does it come out afterwards? And I'm assuming that the raw cask that we have here is at natural cask strength.
Yeah, good.
So as most distilleries, based on a lot of experience, you keep your distillate around 62 to 64%. You do that for several reasons. One is, of course, you want to lower the amount of angel share that you have. Angel share, you have a lot when you have small casks, and the bigger casks, you have the less angel share. For us, it's not important what the angel share is. I think I actually drink and taste more than the angels can remove from the cask, because when we have the casks in the background, the temperature in the room is very different from the floor, from the ground to the top level where the cask at the highest level lies. So I need to change and rotate the casks depending on how long time they've been placed there. So angel share is one thing. My share is much bigger, but around 64, because you want to extract certain flavors. If the ABV is too low, then you get too much of the wood, and it's not nice. So you need a certain amount of alcohol. You need to have these oils in the whiskey. That's also what you look at when you swirl and you see the legs in the glass. So when you have it and you look at it and you see, oh, it's full of oils. And if you don't have all these oils and it's 61 degrees, right, 61%, you can't do like this. I mean, it's not normal that you have I would say, I don't know what you say, Richard, but you like very strong whiskeys. But is it normal to have a 61%, whiskey?
For us, it is, because we love our single casks, and we do. Cool. And if you look behind them, the SMWS bottles, all single cask. We do. We search for it though.
Fantastic.
Cool. Not very many like that, but that's what we buy. That's
cool. So cool. But my point is just that you need a certain amount of oils in the whiskey, because the alcohol it binds all the oils, right? All the flavors. Mm-hmm. So the more that you have of oils, of esters, etc., in here, the less it will bite you in the nose.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. Control it that way. Secondary question there, Richard?
Secondary question. Again, we've talked a lot about the science of your distillation process, all of the intention and thought that's meticulously gone into the crafting of your whiskey. Where, for you, does the art of whiskey making come into play, and how?
Good question. Love the art question.
And a short answer, right? I mean, I just went through the whole process.
Yep.
There's nowhere where we do shortcuts. We don't add any enzymes. We don't, we respect the grain that we work with, the barley, whatever. We respect the processes from fermentation, distillation, and cask making. It's the whole process. I mean, if I would do a shortcut anywhere, there was no point for me to be here today. Fine.
Let's talk about the art, though. So your creativity with it. I think the art and creativity go side and side. So where does your creativity come in? Where do you decide how it's going to change and not the computer?
Yeah. So, up front, we actually decided the three different categories that we wanted to work with, because the raw was really, again, as I showed you, we don't have chard, we don't have casks, which sherry, etc. I have sherry cask, but I make the sherry cask myself. So if I wanted to make a whiskey with a finish, then I would still have Hungarian Oak. I would buy the sherry I want to, or the port wine or whatever, fill the cask, let it stand there for half a year, empty the cask, and then use it, right? I'm not in the position, you'll see it's a micro distillery. I'm not in the position to buy the top-notch Oloroso casks or whatever. So I make my own stuff. This is where the art comes in. We determine from the start what we want to make. It's not by chance. We know exactly where each and every cask, in which direction they're going. They are planned from the start to in which direction. Is it a raw? Is it a rare? Is it a refined cask that we are making? Nothing is done by chance. That's how we work.
Thank you very much. And I just gotta say thank you for the tour. It was fascinating, and not many could visit you during COVID, obviously. But now it's a must-see on the bucket list. People see there and have to go there, and hopefully they do.
Thank you.
One last question about Cass, and then I have a question about your very first whiskey you ever did. Do you still do beechwood every once in a while, or what category does that go in? The beechwood smoked barrels.
So when we make the we have to decide from start, do we want to make a distillate, a white dog, which is soft and nice without all the green notes from the grain. I mean, when you take, we should just send you a sample. When you taste the white dog, you're not in doubt. I mean, there are red dots from that to the whiskey, right? And it's really, really important because, as I said, we are making the building blocks for the whiskey. So the white dog is not just alcohol. It's floral. It's full of grain. It's green. It's really fantastic.
Yeah,
it's really fantastic. Sometimes I take the grain and then I smoke it in a smokehouse, as we've done it for centuries in Denmark. Beechwood is what I use. I smoke it myself over 24 hours. So I buy the malt, the barley, the malt, and then I had to actually rehydrate it, add water into it, and then I smoke it. Yeah. It's a lot of work, but the taste that you have can't be compared. It cannot be compared to what you have from Islay, right? It's not peat, it's beechwood. Completely different. It's much more meaty, umami.
It's not medicinal.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. It's not medicinal. It's just smoke. No medicine. Okay.
It's very complex. Let me taste. Do I have? I was just looking if I had a sample. I didn't have a sample right here. But it's like, let's have a talk about it. Got that? We are here. Do we have a few more minutes?
Yes, you go ahead.
We have a glass. Let me just take it. Good.
We're here drinking whiskey. What else should we do?
Can you follow me? Yeah, let's do that. It's a really good question. How does beechwood smoked barley in a fermentation and distillation system like this, how does it taste? I mean, it's a good question. So I have a cask right here, right? We just opened this. This is only 31. This is from June.
Okay.
So it's only a few months, right?
3 months. Maybe 4.
Just before I went on summer vacation or summer holidays. So this was one of the last casks, GO 31. Let's have a look. Okay. So from 1st of July to now. So this is what we are. Perhaps can you see the color already? So
if you lower it a bit, we'll have it in the white light, I think. A little bit lower. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see it better now, I think. No, it's good. I wish I could smell it, but seeing it's okay.
At least now you see the color, right? This is 3 months. Right.
I'll just drink mine.
I mean, you still have all the green bloody notes, sorry. I mean, you have the grass, you have the green notes, you have the barley. And then the smoke just comes in waves.
And as you're trying that, is that part of your rare or refined? Or it's something different? Okay.
This is raw.
It's raw. Okay.
So raw can be smoked or non-smoked barley or malt in a cask like this.
Yep.
Which has no finish, right? So I have a PX up there, for example. I have some bespoke casks that I make myself. I have different casks with whatever kind of finish. They are made for different reasons. So the raw is the pure cask, and the distillate. That's it. Then we have the rare. Rare would be some of the small casks we have over there. It could be the gin cask. It could be a Negroni cask. It could be whatever cask. Aquavit.
Okay.
You saw the bourbon cask. That's a rare. It's been filled with aquavit, which is like the Danish or Scandinavian spirit, a couple of times. Exactly, aquavit. So, and we empty the cask and fill it with whiskey. That will be a rare. 200 bottles, perhaps 150, depending on how much my share and the Angel share is.
Yeah,
that's a rare. That's a rare. Then we have the refined. Refined. Marcus, could you get me another glass and the refined, just to show you the difference between the color? Because you asked the first whiskey you made. That's a refined over there.
The very first whiskey you made was refined?
It's in the same category because the very first whiskey we made, let me just have, it should say on the top.
I have a picture, but I don't know if this was the very first. I think it is. Was this your very first whiskey?
Exactly. Yes. This was the very first whiskey that we launched. Yeah.
Unique bottle. Beautiful. Love it.
It's made by Holmegaard. Holmegaard, which is you can say they are making a glass for the Royal Court. It's a very old.
And they do it by hand, and they're blowing the glass. They do it all for that. Yes.
Yeah, and there's a long tradition and history behind the way of making these the glass. And you saw the beautiful bottle with the 3 legs. Everything is made by hand, right? And they actually shared more or less, location. So where the first location we had for the distillery is also where Holmegaard actually made that bottle. That's why we have this cooperation with Holmegaard. They made this bottle especially for us. Normally it has 4 legs. The one you showed us has 3 legs. Yeah. Specially made for the whiskey. Yeah.
I'll put that up
I have
again.
Another glass. Yeah. Okay. You see the color? The color is completely different.
No, I think I need you to go into a lighter background because I don't see the contrast before colors where we are, I don't think.
Let's see if we can do any. I'm really sorry. It's very dark in Copenhagen now.
Yeah, it's getting late.
But can you?
Yeah.
I can see it's completely different than what you saw before. This is, I wouldn't call it black, but it's very dark in color. This is.
And that's the refined you have there.
This is a refined. This will be launched. I just need to complete it. It will be ready in October.
Bottles of that
we
one?
Always blind. Sorry?
Oh, how many bottles of that one do you think?
I think around 400 bottles.
Okay.
So
hopefully our Greg and Yarka will get it for us. That's good.
I'm sure Marcus will do his best to.
Good. Thank you, Marcus. I'm going to ask you a question about that first bottle that we had.
Yeah.
Because there was something online with that. So I'll just get a picture of it again. So this first bottle, there was only 100 bottles ever made of this. And I'm assuming you sold out right away and that the secondary market price probably went up substantially. And so I know you tried it. Did Marcus try it as well?
Marcus, did you try the first week? I guess you did. Yeah. He says yes, he did.
Can you describe it for me a little bit? Just little notes, because we're not going to have it. But how does it compare maybe to the raw that we have in our bottles right now, or our glasses? We're almost gone. But.
Yeah, the raw is very, it's soft, right? It's fruity, it's aromatic. It's completely different. Refined is bespoke cask. It's full of. Just the nose. You have much more licorice. You have it's so full body. This is so. It's so powerful. It's like when I normally describe it as when a horse kicks you. It's so much more. Still in balance, but this is so complete. This is so much more. It's completely different, and it's so damn hard to make.
Yeah.
It took us
Good.
8 years to actually get this recipe right.
Good.
But
I like
the
knowing you
smoke is
tried
so
hard for your whiskey. It's nice.
Yeah,
It's
it
good.
is. I'll send you a sample.
Thank you. I will accept that sample and enjoy it. But I do want to ask you a question about the 100 bottles. And I want Marcus's perspective on this too, because you make 100 bottles and people buy it. They might hoard it, they might store it, they might resell it, or they might share it. And from a different perspective, because Marcus is in sales, and I'm wondering if he's thinking money, 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 and you're thinking I want everyone to try it. I wonder the different perspectives on that. Do you want everyone to try everything, open everything, or do you like the fact that the price skyrockets and makes it sound really, well, attractive? So tell us what you think, John. I'll focus on you.
If you ask me, of course, we want to sell everything, but also we want people to try it. So the thing is, we actually saved a couple of bottles from the first edition here in the bar. So you can come here and try it, but you have to put an effort in it just to come here.
Yeah.
Then it's fine.
Okay.
Of course, we know everyone knows the second-hand price on whiskeys. Of course, these whiskeys will be collector's items as well. But we actually hope people drink it because that is what Lasse does, and that also makes more people try it, so we can sell even more. So that's the future as well.
You sell it so you can buy more of those PX and sherry casks that are really expensive. How about you, Lasse? Do you want everyone to open everything, or do you like the idea that the price is going up 500% or whatever it is?
Look, I'm behind the kettles. I'm not here for the price. I don't care about price.
Good.
I make the stuff. I'm here we had the discussion, right? Because we knew how it would, that's how it is. The price will go up. And I kept bottles. I said, we have to keep them. And Marcus agreed completely. Actually, his idea also saying we have to keep bottles here so people can try it. That's why, why should we just make it as a collector's item? It doesn't make sense. Why spend all this effort for having a bottle on a shelf that no one can? That's not why I'm here.
Good.
Marcus, perhaps you, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here.
That's
to make
why I wanted Marcus
that you can try.
I like that. Yeah. I like the difference.
To be honest, Danish design, it's whiskey, but it's also shelves. We don't do in shelves. We don't do that kind of design. We do whiskey. That is like the ultimate design and culture for me, because it's something that you takes into your own body and get a feeling, and that is the best thing you can do.
Well, it is a beautiful bottle, but we're going to sign off fairly soon, but we haven't talked about the gin yet, and we're not going to do an after dram because we've gone to an hour and a half. We've been here longer than we ever have for the regular. No, it's good, because usually I stop and then we do an after dram, but I didn't feel a place was appropriate to stop. But I do want to talk about the gin before we go, and the difference in the productions, if you could please, in the gin, and then tell us if it's a gin basket or if it's macerated, and how do you get the orange? Is it actual orange peel, something like that?
I just put the glass. Sure, definitely. So you tried the orange gin.
Yes.
We have 3 different gins. We have some rules that we use every time we make gin. And orange gin is one. Sorry?
Shall we go to the stills?
Yeah, we can actually.
Yeah, I'll make you large.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Cool. Let's go back to the still. Yep. We'll just move. So let's talk about gin. Okay. So when you make gin in Europe, there are certain rules that you need to obey, legislations. First of all, there's a legislation saying that you cannot use, or you have to use what we call agricultural ethanol, meaning that it has to be at least 96% pure.
Okay.
It must come from a grain type, plus a lot of other rules. So It's what you normally call a neutral grain spirit.
Yes.
Neutral grain spirit. That's why I don't make the spirit myself for gin. I mean, there's no reason for me to spend 10 days to create flavor notes and then remove it in the still. So I mean, it's really seldom that a distillery actually make the new make itself. There's no reason to do that because it has to be neutral. You cannot taste anything. There's no place for esters, etc., to give taste. So you have to use neutral grain spirit. That's how it is. So more or less everyone buys, and if they say they make them itself, I don't know. It might be right, but I have to be honest. That's how I am. We buy it. That's how it is. It's by law. Is to actually. I mean, we have had a lot of incidents in Europe, with a lot of methanol, in wine. So that's a reason why you use neutral grain spirit. Of course, you need to have a juniper in there. It's gin, right? When we make gin, we only have 6 components. We have juniper as one component, and then we have five other components in there. So you talked about simplicity, delight, and surprise. We try to create complexity in a product with the fewest amount of ingredients. With the fewest amount of ingredients. That's why we only have 6 ingredients. And I'm sure when I tell you what's in there, you can also read on the back. You can actually also taste. You can also taste the different ingredients. Oranges, yes, it's. We buy oranges. We hand peel the oranges. Yes, we do. Of course, we do. I mean, there's nothing artificial in here. Everything is organic. We are very sustainable.
Is it the peel?
We reuse everything.
Is it the peel or the orange, the flesh? Which part?
No. Because, I mean, again, if you boil, I mean, the flesh doesn't contain all the oils. The oils in the orange that gives you the smell, the scent of oil, it's in the peel. So we peel the oranges one by one by hand. That's how it is. We have Seville oranges, which is more bitter. That you have to buy dried. You cannot buy it fresh. That's how it is. So that's dry. You have cardamom in there. You have, of course, the juniper, right? You have allspice. I hope you can taste all these components. And then you have the prunes. That's the last one. Gives them sweetness. And the complexity of these 6 things, that's it. We take all the botanicals. We macerate them. We put them into a cheese cloth like this. So this is for another product. It's full of coffee. We have a coffee spirit. We put them into cheesecloth, lower it into alcohol, and extract as many of the oils that we can. Then we take all the botanicals and put them into steam baskets like this. We never ever boil. We never ever boil the botanicals. I mean, if you make jam at home, whatever, if you boil oranges, it doesn't taste of orange, right? It doesn't taste. I mean, you don't have the same taste. So, but if you distill the peel where the oils are, then you get the most fantastic scent of oranges. So everything goes into steam baskets. And then we start the distillation. Distillation is about separating molecules, and I think normally I try to do it like this. Let's see if it works. I have. Can you see these 3? Yeah. Good. Start in the middle. So once you extract and do a maceration, you can see the color, right?
Yes.
It looks like this. It looks like tea, perhaps. You extract all the flavors. You have a combination of oils here and alcohol, but you also have a lot of hydrophilic compounds. All the things you really don't want in your gin. So you extract as much as you can, but you don't keep the botanicals in here when you do the actual distillation. It goes into a steam basket, because once you start to heat this up and you put energy into this, then you will actually start to separate the molecules. If I keep the botanicals in here, I'm boiling the botanicals and I'm extracting more and more of flavors that I don't want in my gin. So once I distill, get this clear liquid.
Right.
There's no head. Heads is only in whiskey. This is neutral grain spirit, so there's no head, but there's a lot of heart and tail. Once we get to around 70% in ABV, then we do the cut.
Okay.
Because once you go lower than 70, you have so much energy into the system again. And notes, this is what is left behind. This is how it looks inside the still. You know, it started like this.
Right.
It started like this. And it looks like this once you have removed all the flavor and all the alcohol. It looks like this.
Lasse,
And you don't want this. You don't want this in your.
Will you put that into the next batch? Do you put your tails into the next batch? You throw it out. It's done. Okay.
No. Why? No. I can't reuse that for the gin. No. I mean, the taste is so awful. There's no. There's a reason why people pay the price they do for the product. We spend a lot of time to refine and make it so smooth and nice. And I think Josh, you tried actually neat, right? How many times do we drink neat gin? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I drink gin quite regularly neat. You know, getting good quality gins, and you know, you're paying a premium to have that. You know, I'm not drinking the generic gins, but the craft gins, you know, drinking it neat is lovely.
Yeah.
Joss?
Yeah.
I just love how you can get to the oils from those orange peels through that whole process. So it just blows me away that it survives that levels of
Steam
heat.
basket.
Yeah, just fantastic.
Steam basket. Yeah.
Well, and I like the fact that it's macerated engine basket. I would say I like it. That's both.
Yeah, but that's the only way that I control and make sure that I get the same amount of oils from batch to batch, because once I've done the distillation, the distillate goes directly into the stainless steel tanks I have. A batch is 300 liters.
Yeah.
I don't alter. I only adjust the alcohol, you know, to 41%. That's it. So I don't do a second distillation. It misses a bit of orange or prune or whatever. No, I have one chance to do it right. Either I do it right or I don't do it. That's how it is. Okay. And that's the difference between craft and art and passion, you know, and small micro distillers. This is what we do. All of us, not me, all of us.
And that's a perfect way to end this right there. That was a good exclamation point. Boom. Let's do last comments. I'll go Joss, Richard, and then you, Lasse. And Marcus, if he has any last comments, he can come on and say that too. Joss, what you got?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time. I know that we kind of had in the background that conversation about the sort of how you're going to walk us through the virtual tour. I didn't really know what to expect, but that was I think the most thorough and explanation of how not only the generic process works, but how your specific take on the process and kind of how you've specialized and you went into each little step there. And again, thank you for sharing these, very unique products with us. And I feel very fortunate that I've been able to share that with a few people here in Toronto who all thoroughly enjoyed it last night. And again, thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you, Joss. Richard?
Yeah, Lasse, thank you very much. I guess my question previously about science and art, I think a lot of people, it's a combination of the two, almost in equal balance. It seems that everything you do is so calculated and meticulous and measured and quantified that it's almost like the artistry is in the science itself. And there's a great beauty to being able to be so precise, so exact, to create such quality through that, that it can be an art in the science. So just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you. I also want to thank Marcus for coming and talking about the sales and marketing. And Greg, Yarka, Dolph, Joss, this is like the last hurrah for us in this international journey. It's been so fantastic. I've been able to travel the world virtually and taste things from everywhere. And finishing with Denmark has been such a treat. Thank you for the whiskey, the gin. It's great. I'm so thrilled to have been part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcus, do you have any last comments, buddy?
Cheers.
Cheers. Done. A man to the point. He's done. Lasse, any last comments from you, kind sir?
Alas, please.
No, just one more thing. It's so much easier to work with sales when you have a guy like this.
Oh, nice.
Because you don't have, you don't have to do that much. It just works.
First of all, thank you for having this session again. I watched a lot of your sessions before. I really appreciate that you take the time and also give a chance to small distillers like me and the distillery here and others to it's not just Scottish whiskey or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of distilleries which are interesting and we do different things and we're worth trying. Fantastic questions to all three of you actually. It's quite seldom that you get so many nerdy questions.
Good.
Thank you for giving me the time to explain all of this, because we spent so many years. I work from Saturday evening to Friday evening here. It means a lot. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for being so willing to show what you're doing. You're open, you're honest, and it shows your pride, and I really love that. So, and that's what we look for, and it really does impress us all. So, thank you very much for that. So, that's it. That is all the time. Well, all the time. We went an hour and 40 minutes, so that's all the time we have today. Whiskey brothers, whiskey sisters, and whiskey friends. What a fantastic afternoon for us. Fantastic evening for these gentlemen. Thanks to our listeners for being with us today. We've had 30 and down 25. We fluctuate a bit, but having so many of you over an hour and 40 minutes just says something about these gentlemen here. What a fantastic day. So thank you to the panel. Thank you, Joss. Thank you, Richard. Absolute pleasure. And special thanks to Lasse and Marcus from Copenhagen Distillery. We're looking forward to seeing you gentlemen in Canada one day, sirs. That would be very fun. We're going to have your whiskey here, or your spirits completely here very soon, thanks to Yark and Greg. But we're looking forward to seeing you too. And let's just say, join me in 2 weeks, and I'm starting something new in 2 weeks. Not new. It's on October 2nd, 5 o'clock our time, 7 o'clock for our guests in Eastern Time Zone. We're starting our very first of the second, our first book of the second Whiskey Book Club season. And we're going to have author Lou Bryson on with us. I'm going to be discussing chapters 1 to 8 of Lou Bryson's new book, his newest book, Whiskey Masterclass, the ultimate guide to understanding Scotch, bourbon, rye, and more. I'm looking forward to it, and you should be too. So, as a final note, you don't want to miss anything in future. Like, subscribe, and gentlemen, can you raise a glass, please? Here, gentlemen, is to good company. Here's to good whiskey. Here's to good conversation. And here's to hopefully seeing you again soon. Sláinte, gentlemen. Cheers.
Sláinte.
Cool.